Right. So I mean, we laugh about it. It's very lucky to have you here. You had a stroke as well, haven't you?
I had a stroke exactly this time last year.
If you've ever driven at night with the heater humming and the world reduced to headlights and wet pavement, you already understand why Chris Rea mattered. Some artists feel like a moment. Chris felt like a place. A voice like worn leather and late-night radio, a guitar that didn't need to sprint to be unforgettable, and songs that never begged for attention. They simply stayed. Today, the news is heavy. Chris Rea has died, with reports saying his family confirmed he passed away in hospital on Monday, December 22, 2025, after a short illness at the age of 74.
And I stopped smoking this time last year.
Really? Right.
Actually, today.
However you found him, on the radio, through a parent's cassette, through a playlist, or through that one song that returns every winter, this is one of those losses that lands quietly, then keeps landing again. This video is a memorial, not a rumor chase, not a greatest hits countdown, and definitely not a performance of grief. Just a respectful look at what he gave, what he built, and why so many people feel like his music has been walking beside them for years.
Magnet Records hired a head of promotion by the name of John (Knocker.
If you value tributes like this, take a second to like the video and subscribe. It helps these stories reach the people who are looking for them tonight. Chris Rea was born in 1951 and came from Middlesbrough, a working town background that you can hear in the honesty of his sound. His music never felt like it was trying to impress you. It felt like it was trying to tell you the truth. That's a rare thing in any era, and it's why his catalog didn't fade when trends shifted. There's something important about the way Chris carried himself. He didn't build a career on constant reinvention for attention's sake.
And I was a big 16-stone overcoat bead like this, and very much paranoid and very defensive against all record companies. I used to get into quite a few.
He built it on consistency and craft. Song after song, album after album, he made a world that sounded like him, blues-rooted, road-worn, melodic, and emotionally direct. That gravel in his voice wasn't a gimmick, it was character, it was experience. It was the sound of someone who had lived long enough to know that joy and ache often sit in the same chair. When you talk about Chris Rea, you have to talk about the guitar. Not just guitar in the generic sense, his guitar, the slide, the way a single sustained note could feel like a whole scene. He wasn't interested in fireworks for their own sake. He used restraint the way great writers use silence. He'd leave space, let the groove breathe, and then place one line exactly where it needed to be, like headlights appearing over a hill. If you're editing, don't rush this part.
Shindigs. So the word was out that John Knocker was coming to Magnet Records.
Let the viewer hear the texture. Use close-ups of hands on strings, a slow push-in on a live performance, a moment where the band drops back and the slide guitar hangs in the air. That's where his magic lived, not in speed, but in feeling. His early breakthrough introduced him to a wider audience, but what's fascinating is how his career kept expanding long after the first wave of attention. Many artists peak early and spend the rest of their lives chasing a second spark. Chris did the opposite. He kept writing, kept recording, kept touring, kept refining. Over decades, he released an enormous amount of music, the kind of output that only happens when someone is truly committed to the work itself, not just the applause. Then came the era that so many fans consider the heart of his mainstream legacy, The Road to Hell and Auberge. Those albums didn't just succeed, they became landmarks. They captured a mood that listeners recognized instantly. Adult, reflective, cinematic without being fake. There's a reason people still talk about those records with that "you had to be there" tone, even if they discovered them years later. They weren't built to trend, they were built to last. And then there's the song that, for many people, became a tradition, Driving Home for Christmas. It's almost unbelievable how a song can turn into a yearly ritual, but that one did. Every winter it returns, not because it's loud, but because it's honest. It feels like real travel, real fatigue, real longing. The kind of homecoming that's less about the house and more about who's inside. That song also captures what Chris Rea did best. He turned ordinary experiences into something meaningful without dressing them up. He didn't need grand metaphors. He had the confidence to describe the simple truth and let it hit you naturally. That's why it's become part of the season for so many people. It doesn't demand your emotions. It respects them. If you grew up with Chris Rea in the background, you probably didn't even realize how much he was shaping your emotional landscape. His music was there when you weren't trying to perform for anyone, when you were just being yourself, driving, thinking, missing someone, hoping, healing. That's the kind of relationship people have with his songs. Private, steady, and real. And that's why today hurts. Because you don't just lose a singer, you lose a companion you didn't always speak about. You lose a voice that could sit with you in silence without making it awkward. If you're feeling that, you're not alone. Drop your favorite Chris Rea song in the comments or the moment you associate with his music. I read them and they matter. And if you want more tributes like this, respectful, focused, and human, subscribe for follow-ups so you don't miss the next one. In his later years, there were widely discussed health struggles, and it's hard not to hear a deeper layer of resilience in the work when you know that. Not resilience as a motivational poster, but resilience as in, I'm still here, and I'm still making something real. The blues has always been the language of that kind of endurance, and Chris spoke it fluently. Even when the songs weren't strictly blues, the emotional logic was the same. Life is complicated, and we can still make beauty out of it. What do we do with an artist like this after he's gone? We do what we always do with the ones who truly mattered. We play the records again. We send a song to someone we love. We revisit the albums that shaped our taste. We keep the work alive by letting it keep working on us. If you're building your video and you want it to feel cinematic without being dramatic, try this. Open with quiet road footage, not fast cars, not flashy edits, just the slow reality of travel. Cut to archival images of Chris on stage, then back to the road. Let the music guide the pacing, not the other way around. When you mention the road to hell, show an empty highway at night. When you mention auberge, show a warm interior scene. A table lamp, rain on a window, an old photo on a shelf. Match the visuals to the feelings his songs carry, and keep the tone respectful. Chris Rea's legacy doesn't need exaggeration, it needs clarity. It's also worth saying, not every legend looks like a legend while they're still here. Some legends are loud, some are quiet. Chris was the quiet kind, the kind who builds a relationship with listeners over time until one day you realize he's been part of your life for decades. That kind of legacy is powerful because it's earned, not manufactured. If this tribute is bringing you a little peace or a little perspective, hit like. It seems small, but it helps this reach other fans who are scrolling tonight trying to make sense of the news. To Chris's family and everyone who loved him personally, condolences. The public only knew the artist, but even that public relationship is real. Millions of people feel connected to the music, and they feel the loss. That's the strange, beautiful thing about art. It creates a bond between strangers who may never meet, but share the same feeling at the same time. Before we end, I want to invite you to do something simple. Choose one Chris Rea song tonight and play it all the way through without multitasking. No skipping, no scrolling. Just listen. Let the guitar lines land. Let the voice sit in the room. Let the song do what it was designed to do. Keep you company. And if you want, come back here and tell me what you heard. Not what you think about it, but what it reminded you of. A drive, a person, a year, a place. That's how you honor someone like Chris Rea, by letting the work keep connecting people after the artist is gone. I'll also be doing a follow-up video where we look at the songs fans are replaying the most right now and how his legacy evolved across different eras. So make sure you subscribe for updates and follow-ups. I don't want you to miss the next part. For your visuals, here are 2 clean graph ideas you can build into the edit without making it feel like a lecture. First, a career arc graphic that maps key album eras across decades, like a simple horizontal timeline with a highlighted peak around the late 1980s and early 1990s, then a long, steady continuation afterward. Second, a seasonal tradition chart that shows how Driving Home for Christmas rises every December and falls afterward, repeating year after year, to visually explain why that track became part of people's lives. To generate those visuals, use prompts like this in whatever tool you use for graphics. Create a clean 16:9 documentary-style timeline graphic titled Chris Rea, A Career Built to Last, with decade markers from the 1970s through the 2020s and callouts for major eras, using a minimal layout, soft contrast, and readable typography. Then, create a clean 16:9 line chart titled Driving Home for Christmas, the December Return, with the x-axis labeled by months and a repeating rise in December, minimal text, light grid, and a respectful memorial tone, avoiding flashy effects. Rest in peace, Chris Rea. Thank you for the voice, the guitar, and the songs that made the world feel a little less lonely on long roads. If you want more respectful music tributes and follow-ups, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned.